10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 247. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 247 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. As always, I hope all of you are doing well out there, staying healthy and hanging in. Hopefully the end of this is in sight. We can start getting out and playing some music with some actual people. So today, as we usually do on the first week of the month, we're going to start a brand new series. And in this series, we're going to be talking about common jazz modulations and how we can handle them. And what are some things we should look for when we see a modulation coming that will help us get to the new key in a way that makes sense and is nice and smooth and natural. Before we jump into the show, a couple of items of housekeeping. If you want to support this show and join over 300 people that are already supporting it, you can go to our Patreon page. If you're not sure what Patreon is, it's a great way for you to support the creators you enjoy directly. And this is a listener-funded show. It is the only way that we keep these episodes coming at you week in and week out. So if you want to find that and figure out the benefits that you're going to get, including PDFs and audio recordings and all sorts of great stuff, you can go to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, click on one of the Patreon banners, and get yourself signed up today. We've got a ton of new patrons this week that I want to give a quick shout out to. Let's start with our new $5 patrons. Thank you to Henry and Stefan. Our new $3 patrons are Joseph, Michael, BJ, and Roy. And I also want to thank Dag for editing their pledge from $3 to $5 to get those extra benefits. So thank you to all the new people hopping on board. And of course, as always, thank you to the people that have been supporting us for years. Really appreciate it. You are the reason that this show keeps going. Again, to get signed up, 10minutejazzlesson.com, click on one of the Patreon banners and get instant access to everything over there. Okay, so I mentioned that today we're going to be talking about modulation. And what I've done is I've picked three really common and interesting modulations that we are going to come across in hundreds, if not thousands, of tunes. Today we're going to be looking at when a tune modulates from the 1 to the 4. So let's just frame that really quick, what I'm talking about. Let's use a tune that's in the key of B flat major to start with. So what we are talking about in this episode is an instance where we see a tune go from the key of B flat major to the key of E flat major. That is what we call modulating to the key of the 4. And there are so many tunes that do this. I will get into some specific examples later of tunes that do this, but there are literally hundreds of tunes that do this. This is one of the most common modulations that you will see as a jazz musician. So this one's really important. So what we want to do is we want to talk about how does the key typically change? There has to be some kind of preparation to get us into that new key. And what should we be thinking about and focusing on to ensure that we are playing something that creates a smooth transition into the new key? So what is the most common way for a tune to prepare for a modulation? Well, we have to go back to our old friend, the 2-5-1 progression. So if you look at your PDF for this week, what you're going to notice is that we are moving from the key of concert B flat major into the key of concert E flat major by way of a 2-measure 2-5-1. So what you will notice on the examples that I've prepared for you this week is that we have 2 measures of concert B flat major 7. Then we go to concert F minor 7 to concert B flat 7. And then finally, we modulate to the key of E flat major. Okay, and that is characterized by the E flat major 7 at the end of the line. Now, we need something like this 2-5-1, or at least a 5 chord, because if we were to go directly from a B flat major 7 chord to an E flat major 7 chord, it wouldn't really sound like we're modulating. It would sound like we're just throwing in an E flat major 7 chord. Once we prepare for that transition to the E flat major 7 chord by way of a 2-5-1, it really tells your ear, it tells your listener, hey, we're actually changing keys here because we've prepared for it, we've set it up, and now finally we're doing it. So what you might be thinking is that the modulation happens in measure 5, but really it starts in measure 3, and then it finally arrives in measure 5. So I want you to think about measures 3, 4, and 5 together as the modulation. We have the preparation, and then we arrive. So now what I would like you to think about is the difference between the key of B flat major and the key of E flat major. So the key signature for B flat major is 2 flats, B flat and E flat. And the key for E flat major is 3 flats, B flat, E flat, and A flat. So the big difference between those two keys is that note A flat, the presence of the A flat in the new key signature that we're going to. So what I want you to focus your efforts on this week is thinking about how can we incorporate that A flat and really lean on it a little bit in order to develop lines that cue us going into that new key. And as soon as we hit the 2-5-1 going into the key of the 4, we're really highlighting that note of a concert A flat. We're really using that note to show our listener, hey, we are going somewhere. We're about to depart from this original key that we were in, and we're about to put a new sound in your ear. We're about to make this tune go somewhere else. So what I've done is I've written 2 lines, 2 examples that show how I would think about leaning on that concert A flat and really building my line off of that. So let's look at line number 1. I'm going to play it for you, and then we're going to talk about some of the ways that I'm using that concert A flat to get me ready for the new key. Here's the line. This is example number 1 on your PDF for this week. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. So hopefully you can hear that that has a really nice sound that flows from the key of the 1 to the key of the 4. Now let's talk about how I've actually accomplished that. So remember, we want to highlight that concert A flat as soon as we hit that 2-5-1 progression. So what you'll notice is I've highlighted every single time I've utilized that concert A flat in my 2-5-1 lick in measures 3 and 4. So the first thing that you'll notice in example 1 is that it's the first note that I play. And actually, I'm creating a lot of motion from the concert A natural to the concert A flat. I'm utilizing the concert A natural on beat 4, measure 2, and then I'm immediately saying, hey, this is changing to concert A flat on the downbeat of measure 3. Now you will also notice in measure 4 on the and of 1, I am squarely hitting that concert A flat and hanging out on it for 2.5 beats. So that is an example of really trying to highlight that note, get it into your ear. Here we go. We are modulating. The difference between these 2 keys is this note right here. So you'll notice that beat 1, measure 3, and the and of 1 in measure 4, I'm really highlighting that note a lot. And that's what I would like you to do when you're starting to be able to hear these modulations. All right, let's look at example 2. I'm doing a lot of the same things in this, where I'm really trying to highlight that concert A flat, but let's listen to it first. This is example 2 on your PDF. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's investigate where I've used that concert A flat in line number 2. So again, you will notice that in measure 3 of example 2, the first note that you hear is the A flat. Really trying to highlight that in my line, show you that something is changing here, something is about to happen. Now you'll notice on the and of 2 in measure 3, I'm hitting it again, and I'm actually holding it for a while, a beat and a half. Then you'll notice on the and of 1 in measure 4, I'm playing it again, and then you'll notice on beat 4 in measure 4, I'm playing it once more. So that's 4 instances of that concert A flat happening in 2 measures. So I'm trying to build my line around that. Everything else will be secondary. I just want to play that note as much as possible. And I think this is going to be the key to your success when you see something like this, when you see a modulation that goes to the 4, really lean on that. Now, what you'll also notice is that really we are just following good voice leading principles, and that's why this modulation works so well. So if you think about it, A natural is the major 7th of a B flat major 7 chord. Then A flat is the 3rd of an F minor 7 chord. That A flat is also the 7th of a B flat 7 chord. And then usually what happens is we resolve that to a G, which is the 3rd of the E flat major 7 chord. Now, I'm not using that voice leading exactly, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to highlight one part of it, the A natural moving to the A flat. So it really ties in with a lot of the stuff that we've talked about on the podcast previously, where we were talking about voice leading, good voice leading. So I want you to try this. This is your assignment for this week. I want you to try to write 2 lines of your own that fit over the same chord progression. So concert B flat modulating to the key of concert E flat. And I want you to try to build your lines in measures 3 and 4 around that A natural to A flat motion and see if you can start to get that sound in your playing. I think it'll place extra emphasis on that movement and it'll get you to start thinking about that in your playing. What this will also do is it will get you to recognize 1 to 4 modulations when they occur in tunes. So a couple of good examples of where this actually occurs. A perfect one is the tune Take the A Train. That modulates from the key of concert C to the key of concert F between the second A section and the bridge. That's the best example I can think of. There are lots of other examples, and I'll actually throw some on the Patreon. That way you'll have some real life examples where you can start to utilize these ideas that you're writing out, possibly put them in other keys and start to see how this plays out in real tunes that we play as jazz musicians. So that's your assignment. I want you to write 2 of those lines and really see if you can highlight that A moving to the A flat. If you have any questions, make sure you ask them in the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Community Facebook group. And you should probably get your hands on the PDF to this episode, and you can do that for only $3 a month at the Patreon site, 10minutejazzlesson.com. Click on one of the Patreon banners, get yourself signed up today. All right, everybody, looking forward to the rest of this series and diving into some different ways of modulating that are typical of the jazz language. We'll see you next week with a brand new episode, and we'll talk to you soon. Stay safe and healthy. Bye, everybody.